Hello everyone, welcome to the last video in our little BeamNG NG and automation building the cars, the different generation series. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I thought this would be a great way to kind of end things by going ahead and taking each one of my cars, not all of the cars of course, they're just my favorites, and my least favorite, this one, and ripping them through the track and kind of discussing some of the things that I've done. Like I said, so this is the 1970s version. This one is my absolute least favorite of all the cars that we made so far. There's nothing I like about this vehicle. The handling on this is atrocious. Oh, it's a little on the underpowered side. You know, again, if you remember, this was the time of austerity. Everything's getting a little boxy. It's a 3-speed automatic. The sound on it isn't incredibly good. I mean, it wants to be a more fun car than it really is, but this, without a doubt, was my least favorite. The handling, like I said, not that great. The power was there, the economy was okay, but the brakes, this was just not a good car. The 1970s had some very, very interesting vehicles. Not a lot of, that is miserable. Not necessarily some of the best ones that ever came out, but, you know, we did have some cool stuff. So this is my last place vehicle. This is, like I said, the 1970s version. Now we're actually going to get into the vehicles that I did like. Hey, that was kind of fun. And we're going to do them in reverse order. So we're going to start with number 3. Coming number 3 is my 1960s speeder, which was supposed to have 4 doors, and apparently I have this little random gaping hole in the side of it. Now this one is definitely my number 3 spot for a lot of different reasons. The first then, the sound on this thing is awesome. Doesn't hurt that yeah, I know that there's a track back there I'm supposed to stay on. It's like, it's just so easy to control even though it's way too heavy. I love this car. One of the things I really enjoyed playing was this game called GT Legends. I'm going right off the track. Here we go. Bam! One of the games I enjoyed playing was GT Legends. And the reason I enjoyed playing that game was they had these old school 1950s, 40s, not 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s cars, and they'd race them all together on the same track. And you'd have these American Mustangs, which are like untouchable and so high powered and everything, and they'd just be crushing until they came to turns. And then you had this problem. And then somebody in a Mini Cooper would go ripping around your inside corner. And I actually got to turn that down. It is too loud for me. And they'd come ripping around your inside corner, and you'd have no choice, and they'd basically wreck you. This thing is a terrible family car. You know, originally this thing was supposed to be something that, you could drive your family around. But I just don't think this would have gone well if you tried to take your kids to school in this thing. It is wild. Very much a product of the 60s, though. We'll just make a bigger engine while everybody else is getting progressively more efficient. Our way would be just like by our way, I see the American way. Just put a bigger engine in it, it'll be fine. Never gonna crash. Whee! Oh, crunch. So that's my number 3. Let's take a look at my number 2. Coming in at number 2 here is our 2016 model. The reason this one comes in at my number 2 is it's such a good, safe vehicle. You know, we've done a lot of different vehicles in this one, and this is the first one that I got into, and I felt it was the best combination of, I mean, look at what I can do here. I can just whoopsie daisy, whee, just glide through the corners on this thing. It is just the definition of easy to operate. No dramatic. It doesn't spin out on you. The stability control, even though it fights you most of the time, it's there. It's very easy. And when I was building this car and testing this car, I couldn't help but reflect on all the cars that I've had luxury to drive in games or in the real world. And like I said, this is one of the first ones, you can really respect what modern technology has done for safety conveniences. We have a turbocharger in this thing as opposed to having a lot of the stuff that we had before. You have stability control, which makes it extremely easy to control. I just turn the wheel where I want it to go, and the stability control figures it out for me. The fact that that's even a possibility is mind-blowing. And the fact that the old technology to pull off the turn like I just pulled off there, most of the time I'd probably spin out. That's just the reality of how that would be in the real world for me as a driver. I'm not a stunt driver, a sports driver. I play one in video games, but not. The other thing I reflect on when I get inside this vehicle is the fact that even though it's a little underpowered compared to all the other ones, it's still pretty quick. Like, I'm easily getting up to 125 over there. And again, remember, this thing is less than 200 horsepower. It's actually one of the least powerful models of our entire series so far, and it is just so contained. With a bigger engine in this thing, this would make a fantastic luxury car. I could definitely see this being something that, with like a little bit more kind of tweaking here and there, I could make this into something really, really, really easy to drive and something that's very, very comfortable. But as is, it's so nice. Like, that's amazing. And again, I'm driving with the keyboard, as I've said many times in the past. And I'm just so pleased at just the way this won. Now, since we're almost at the end of our lap here, I'm actually going to finish up my lap. Obviously, this is not a formula car. It's not even a sports car, to be honest. It's supposed to take, your kids to school, put the groceries in the back, stuff like that. But it's so together. And I'm going sliding off the track. I knew I'd do it eventually. Other things I think of too is, we had that kind of period in the 90s and the 80s when the cars were getting much safer, but they also, you couldn't drive them anymore. They were very stiff, they were very understeery, they were just very, like, yes, they keep you in a safe position, but you just lost the ability to make the car go where you want it to go. That's just something you kind of lost, especially in the 80s. And then we get back up to the knots again, all of a sudden we started seeing a renaissance where we could actually see some of this. Now we're going to move on to my number one pick, which might surprise you. My number one pick is the 1950s. This one is, of all the vehicles that I designed over this neat series that I put together here, this is the one that I always come back to with a smile because it is just a combination of stupid and bizarre, and the handling is all over the place. But I love it because it's, I don't know, it's just one of those things that's hard to explain because it's so easy to drive this car. Even though it is, a 1950s monstrosity with 1950s technology, these really, really bad hard tires, and a back end that just, listen to it scream. It literally does not want to take a turn. But once you get in a turn, it almost reminds me of like a Jaguar E-Type, where you can just go like this. It's so useless. And then when you go to hit the brakes, it just destabilizes. Oh, I love it. Yeah, this is definitely a product of its time. Going back to my GT Legends reference before, this is this would be like your Ford Falcon. This is exactly what this drives like. Just a little overpowered for what it is. Open differential. If I had better tires, this would be a very, very stable car. But I do not have that. But I just love it. Like, it's just so easy to drive. Like, it shouldn't be for how old it is. But the reality is, it's still got our patented 6 cylinders sitting inside of the front of this thing. It's quick enough. Like, I mean, compared to that previous, my number 2 here, I'm doing 110. And that's dangerously fast for this car. Again, imagine putting your family in the back thing and just going, no, we're going up on the highway, kids. But look at this. I almost got it. Oh, I lost the mirror. I almost had it. Almost had it. But yeah. Like you just saw me spin out, and basically, if I had a gamepad or something, I probably could have stuck that. But like, it's a 1950s car. I shouldn't be able to do that. Of course, I know until I brake, so we're gonna go scooting right off the side here. That's fine because I'm just gonna stomp on the gas and go full power anyway. I guess the reason this is my favorite is not because it's necessarily like a good family-safe car or anything. It's because it's just the most raw and unrefined of all the vehicles. The 46 was a little heavy, didn't have the power. The 1960s had the power, but it was just kind of all over the place. The 1970s was just a piece of junk. The 1980s with the front-wheel drive, it was very, very difficult to control. You had really bad understeer. The 1990s was starting to get a little bit better. The knots were definitely getting a lot better, and then obviously the 2010s there with all the electronic controls making it safer, made it fun. But this thing is so legit. As I go off the road again, it's so much fun to drive this car. It goes where you point it, even though it's old. It has enough power to get you in trouble, and it just wants to drift. And it's just very, very, very fun to drive. My absolute favorite out of the series. Now, I'm sure 1950s cars were not like this. This is obviously my simulacrum of whatever that technology was actually like. And I guess my final conclusions are, and when I kind of throw this all together, is I'm going to crash into that blue wall. Nope, just kidding. Is as the technology evolved, not only did the cars, change in style, but they got fundamentally more efficient. They got fundamentally quicker. They got fundamentally a little bit safer. And then we hit that kind of apex where the cars got so safe you could no longer steer them, And then since then, technology has started to take over the computers, making it now possible to pull off some incredible driving without necessarily the technical skill some of these older but extremely sensitive cars would actually have. Now, I know you're kind of curious as to some silly cars that are produced. Let me treat you with that real quick before we finish up this series. It's too bad we weren't doing racing cars. I gotta pull this thing out. All right, so this has been a ton of fun making this. Like I said, BeamNG is one of my games. I've always wanted to make some videos for it. And I finally got my chance to kind of do some of that. Oh my gosh, this thing is too fast! And my favorite thing with this one is that we'll go down to the back end of the track there, and I'll show you just how stupid dangerous fast this thing is. Oh my god, the traction control is fighting me. Too much! And you wonder why I didn't want to do sport cars. It's because I'd spend more time off the track than I'd spend on the track. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. Okay. You can see, yes, this is 1,800 horsepower. And I crashed it again! Nope, just kidding. Watch this. Yeah, this would be a nice family car. Ready to crash? Here we go! Oh god! Woohoo! It's helping me turn, I swear. Enjoy.